It was a normal Tuesday when I opened my banking app and felt my stomach drop. I'd made the payment. I'd avoided extra spending. I promised myself I'd do better. But the balance barely moved. It wasn't just the number, it was the feeling that no matter what I did, the debt stayed one step ahead of me, like I was running and the ground underneath kept sliding backward. And that's the trap with credit cards. They don't need you to fail. They just need you to keep paying the minimum. So if you're watching this with a balance that won't go away, hear this clearly. You're not lazy, you're not broken, and you're not bad with money. You're stuck in a system that was built to keep you stuck. Today, we step out of that system not with motivation, not with guilt, but with a plan. Let me tell you how I watched someone go from I can't breathe to I'm finally in control. Starting the same day they stopped guessing. They didn't start with a big speech. They started with a piece of paper. They wrote down every card, the balance, the interest rate, the minimum payment, and the due date. Card 1, card 2. Card 3, same exact list. It took 10 minutes, and the room got quieter, because fear loves fog. The first thing a plan does is clear the fog. When they finished, they added one more number at the bottom, the total of all minimum payments. That was the monthly debt tax, not what they wanted to pay what the cards demanded just to let them keep existing. And once they saw it, they stopped saying, I think I'm paying a lot, and started saying, this is what I'm up against. Then came the hardest part, not emotionally, but practically. They stopped using the cards. Not in a dramatic, life-changing montage way. Not in an I will never spend again fantasy. They did it in a way that didn't break their life. They created 2 lanes, 1 lane for survival, essentials only, paid with debit or cash food, transport, utilities, the things that keep your life moving. And a 2nd lane for debt, minimum payments on every card, plus 1 extra payment to a single target card. Because if you keep swiping while trying to pay down debt, you're not paying it down, you're just moving it around. It's like trying to empty a bathtub with a cup while the tap is still running. So they turned off the tap. After that, we had to pick a strategy, because I'll pay it down somehow isn't a strategy, it's a hope. There are 2 ways people win this. The first is the Avalanche. You pay minimums on every card and throw every extra rupee or dollar at the highest interest rate first. It's the fastest way mathematically and saves you the most money. The second is the Snowball. You pay minimums on every card and attack the smallest balance first, because quick wins create momentum. Both work. The best method isn't the one that wins on paper, it's the one you can stick to when you're tired, when life gets messy, and when your willpower disappears. So they chose the method that matched their personality and committed to it. Then we did something most people never do because they assume it won't work. They called the card companies. Not to beg. Not to argue. Not to panic. Just to ask calmly for better terms. They used a simple script. I've been a customer for a while. I'm actively paying this down. Is there any way to reduce my interest rate? Are there any hardship programs or fee waivers available? And then they stayed quiet because silence is powerful on a phone call. Sometimes the first answer was no, so they asked a second question. What would need to be true for me to qualify? Or is there a specialist team I can speak to about lowering my APR? Some companies still said no, but some didn't. And when even one card drops its interest rate, it's like you stop bleeding so fast. It isn't glamorous, but it changes the timeline. Next, we looked at a tool people either misuse or fear, balance transfers and consolidation. Here's the honest version. A 0% balance transfer can be incredible if you treat it like surgery. Not like a vacation, because the moment people get 0%, they relax, they start swiping again. They treat the old card like a backup, then the debt doubles, so we set rules. Before moving anything, they confirmed the exact length of the 0% period, calculated the monthly payoff target balance divided by months. No vibes. No guesses and set autopay so the plan didn't depend on remembering. If they couldn't get 0%, we only considered a personal loan if it truly lowered the total cost and only if they promised one thing, they wouldn't run the card's backup. Consolidation doesn't fix debt. It just changes the shape of it. While the payoff plan ran, we built protection. because even a perfect strategy can get wrecked by one surprise expense. When that happens with no cushion, you go right back to the credit card, and it feels like you're starting over. So instead of waiting until the end, they built a small emergency buffer just enough to absorb a punch without borrowing. Not a huge number that takes a year. A simple don't panic amount that turns a crisis into an inconvenience. Then they locked in the habits that prevent the rebound. Minimum payments were automated. Due dates were organized. They chose one day each week for a 10-minute money checking out a stressful budgeting session, just 10 minutes to look at balances, confirm payments, and keep the story from drifting off course. And something changed that surprised them. Not the balance, not yet. What changed first was their posture. They stopped feeling like debt was happening to them and started feeling like someone who was handling it. And that matters, because debt isn't only a math problem, it's a confidence problem. It convinces you you'll never catch up. It makes you avoid the numbers. It makes you procrastinate. So when you face it, name it, and give it instructions, its power drops. Week by week, the target balance started shrinking. Not dramatically at first, but enough that the progress became visible. And visible progress creates its own motivation. Then the first payoff happened. A balance hit zero, and for the first time in a long time, they smiled at a boring financial screen. They didn't celebrate by spending. They celebrated by redirecting their payment to the next card, because when one debt is gone, you don't free up money, you weaponize it. You roll it into the next target. That's how the plan accelerates. That's how you go from this will take forever to wait. This might actually end. So if you're thinking, okay, what do I do today right now? Do this, open a note and list your cards with balance, APR, minimum payment, and due date. Pick Avalanche or Snowball. Stop new charges by separating survival spending from debt payments. Call at least one card company and ask about a lower APR, fee waivers, or a hardship option. If a balance transfer makes sense, calculate your monthly payoff target before you move anything and set autopay. Build a small buffer so a surprise expense doesn't undo your progress. And give yourself one weekly check-in day. That's it. Not perfection. Not punishment, a system. If you want, comment one word, snapshot. Just that. It's your way of committing to take the first 10 minutes seriously. And if you already know your method, tell me Avalanche or Snowball. No shame either way. The only wrong choice is staying stuck in the fog. You're not behind, you're building control, and control is how this ends.